Nice.
I guess I didn't know. I guess I didn't know. I guess I didn't know. Get busy time. Get busy. I guess I didn't know. Get busy. Get busy. I guess I didn't. Get busy. I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't. Get busy time.
Not everybody responds the same way to famous people. Some folks couldn't give a rip about him, while other people wouldn't recognize a famous person if they came up to him and smacked him in the mouth. And then you've got other people who wait their whole life for that one moment where they can brush shoulders with greatness. Here in England, people will come and stand for hours outside Buckingham Palace, waiting for one glimpse of the Queen or a member of the royal family. Even here in Hollywood, things are no different. People come from all over the world to get one glimpse of their favorite celebrity.
My girlfriend's name is what? No way. She makes me nervous. What? Say it again. My girlfriend's name is what? But I don't know why.
Some folks drive round Beverly Hills for hours, just staring at the houses of the stars. Others take it a couple of steps further. They actually root through the garbage cans of rich and famous people, hoping to find some little keepsake that will connect them to a personality. Maybe a piece of dental floss used by Richard Gere, or a discarded Kleenex used by Keanu Reeves, or even a packet of Slim Fast used by Roseanne Barr. I question the mentality of people like that. But if you were to ask me, would I like to get to know someone who's famous? Depending on who they were, of course. I might say yes. How about you?
Actually, I met Shaquille O'Neal.
2 weeks ago, we met the bassist from Korn before the concert.
You know, I got a couple pictures, his autograph, when he was with the Orlando Magics, you know, so that's a couple years back.
Tom Selleck came in, and it was like really early in the morning, and I talked to him, and he's really cool and nice and everything.
Yeah, we've met lots of people up here. We had Sarah McLachlan in the store, and Bruce Willis and Britney Spears and all sorts of people.
Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters was drunk and driving a golf cart around and he tore up the turf. Yeah, that was my brush.
Pamela Anderson, and yeah.
Oh, Slayer, the guitarist Jeff from Slayer tried to like take me home. That was cool, but I turned him down.
Yes, actually, I think must have been 2 weeks ago I saw Lenny Kravitz. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, well, I just followed him. I didn't really meet him.
I'm Anthony, actually. None at all. Closest I've ever got to Slipknot, actually. From here down to that Union Jack flag, that's about it.
I met Jay-Z, Nelly, some WWF wrestlers.
Oh, I did meet someone famous. I met Tom Green last summer on Robson, and I got to talk to him.
And yeah, I met Jackie Chan once, and then like, he's kind of like my cousin's, actually my uncle's friend's friend.
I also met Will Smith, and if you watch the show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there's a little dance that Carlton does with that, and I did that for him, and I made him laugh.
Michael Jordan at the Chicago Bulls halftime performance.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
Like, I was right there next to Mike, just like right next to his bald head, and he looked at real. It was something very good for me to experience. Role model.
Well, one time I saw Bill Gates, and I was pretty sure it was him, but I didn't say anything, but I thought it was him.
We went to the pizza store one day. My man got the exclusive hug from Tyra Banks. That was cute.
It's one thing bumping into a famous person, but a lot of people would much rather be famous themselves. For most people, though, that's just blowing smoke. I met this bloke in England, and he was depressed all the time, and I couldn't figure out why. You see, he had a great wife and great kids, but then one day he told me his story. His story went like this. He was a musician. Well, actually, he was a drummer. And just like lots of drummers, he used to get asked to play in different bands by his friends. And there was this one group of guys that he played for more than others. He did some youth club gigs with them and some bashes at school, and he really enjoyed himself. And they said to him, why don't you come and be our permanent drummer? Because we've had loads of different people playing, but we enjoy playing with you. And he said, yeah, well, I'd perhaps like to. But even though I do enjoy it, don't think the band's gonna fly anyway. So, he quit the band, and he went on with his own life. And the band went on with their own lives. They went through a couple more bass players and a couple more drummers, but they started to attract some attention, and they started to generate some of their own fame. The band got quite famous. They got a load of TV coverage. And every time this man saw them on TV, or heard their name, or especially heard the name of their drummer, he got really, really depressed because he kept thinking, that guy's living my life. I should be that famous. I should be meeting all these people. I should be traveling the world. And he's never got over the fact that he's blown his chance at fame. Oh, the name of the band? A little four-piece unit that you might have heard of. They're called the Beatles.
I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand.
Fame is such a silly, mad, mental thing. People pursue it with all their energy, and then as soon as they become famous, they want to hide away from the people who gave them the fame in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. We make people into superstars so easily, sometimes because their facial features just happen to be arranged in a particularly pleasing manner, others because they've got all the right curves in all the right places. And then you get people who are famous because they just happen to be better at something than anybody else, like sports or music or or they're actors. In fact, the list is endless. And then you get people who are famous for all the wrong reasons, like Genghis Khan or Hitler. Yeah, they might have been great dynamic leaders, but they'll always be remembered for the atrocities that they committed. Then you get people like little old Mother Teresa, and she fed thousands and thousands of people every day, but her lifestyle was incredibly simple. Yet every time she arrived in a nation, she got introduced to the king or the queen or the high consul. But if you showed a picture of her and a picture of Hitler to a room full of people, they'd probably be able to identify Hitler quicker. Fame is that weird. It's amazing with all these famous people about why there's so much debate over this bloke called Jesus that we mentioned in the last session. I mean, some people actually devote their whole lives to him, but others don't even know who he is. It's funny though, because when I used to work on construction sites, I used to hear his name mentioned every day. When people hit their thumb with a hammer, they didn't used to shout, "Oh, Buddha," or "Oh, Muhammad." It was always, "Oh, Jesus." Now, how did he work his way into so many conversations? A man who grew up 2,000 years ago in a tiny hick town in Israel, a man who never made a video, never released a tape, never wrote a book, never wrote press releases about himself, never visited a city outside of Jerusalem, never in his whole life travelled more than 200 miles from where he was born. So why do people follow him? I mean, who on earth was he?
I think he's famous. Oh, he's obviously famous. He's world famous. Everyone knows him.
I think he's famous because of just his power, I guess, his spiritual power that he has over people.
Turning bread into fish. No. What are you talking? Didn't he part the Red Sea? No, yeah. No, that spells Moses. Oh, Moses.
My picture in mine is he's tall and skinny, he has long beard, long hair, the funny white dress.
I'm thinking of like some guy being like hammered onto like a big cross thing and bleeding and wearing like a little barbed wire hat or something. I don't know. I have never read the Bible. I don't know anything about it. I'm kind of like...
No, it's brown. It's brown. I've been to church. You guys haven't. Yeah, but that's not right. They don't even know. They just made them up. Made us make that.
I reckon it's all like a myth. Like it was someone else they saw after he had died that looked like him.
A heavy stoner. Like a complete junkie kind of thing. Because like, he created everything, yeah, so he's got to like, make use of everything. So he probably did everything that he created.
Everyone thinks he's white, and I think he's black. That's my theory.
No one even knows if he's real. Like how does anybody know he's real?
It's a big cult.
I think he's real, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is a cult. Like, how do they like? Oh, I think it's a cult.
I know absolutely nothing.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's dead now, but...
Because he's meant to die for all of mankind, isn't he? So it's probably because it wasn't just for one issue, it's for everyone, all the sins. I don't really know, but that's sort of my idea.
He put justice when there was...
Well, not necessarily. You don't know that really, no, do you?
I've read the Bible myself.
Yeah, but... yeah, okay.
Well, even though I'm not Christian, I'm a Muslim, but no, I'm not a terrorist, yeah, but I respect all religions, and I respect Jesus a lot. Number one, homeboy.
Shut up, man.
He's a good prophet, just like Muhammad and all of them. They're good prophets, Buddha, but I don't think necessarily the son of God, and we're supposed to bow down to him or anything like that.
He died for our sins, didn't he? So... he's obviously going to be celebrated for somebody that gave up his life for the rest of us.
And we thank him for that.
And we thank him for it, sincerely. Yes.
Yeah. Amen.
That's a lot of different opinions. But does it really matter who we think he was? Well, Christians would say that it does, because the whole of Christianity actually hangs on the fact of who Jesus says that he was. And some people would say that the whole thing is stupid anyway, because you're being asked to put your faith blindly in a religious system that doesn't make any sense. Because there's no real facts and evidence to back any of it up. I mean, you can't even prove that Jesus actually existed. Let's kick that theory around a little bit. I mean, BC, AD, where do you think those two little tags come from? See, BC stands for before Christ, and AD stands for Anno Domini, which is Latin for in the year of our Lord. Now, every time you sign a check or do a piece of homework and put a date on it, or every time you write your birthday down, you're actually getting that date from the time that Jesus was supposed to have walked the face of this planet. Now, when you put that together with the fact that why would Jewish and Roman historians write about someone that they arrested, tried, and then killed if he didn't exist? Add to that again the fact that you've got eyewitness written accounts, and you've actually got enough evidence to convince a modern court of law that Jesus actually physically existed on planet Earth. You know, it's been said that you can judge the size of a boat by the amount of weight that it leaves behind. And I suppose you could say the same about historical figures. And Jesus left a pretty big wake. Now, it's not just Christians who say so. You ask some of the other world religions and see what they say about him.
Jesus was a messenger, just like I would say he was a great saint. And he came on this planet to give the message.
Well, Jesus is described as to be I don't remember the Sanskrit name, but it's somebody that is giving empowered soul.
I think Jesus was born 2,000 years ago. His name is on our history. He must be a person who has a great wisdom. Then we take it as our teachers too.
There is Jesus, Buddha, Guru Nanak, Muhammad, and we should teach them what is their message. Every teacher, every prophet has some kind of message from God.
A Muslim cannot be a Muslim if he say, I don't believe on a Jesus, because there is written in the Holy Quran. A Muslim must believe every prophet. If some Muslims say, I don't believe on Jesus, he is not a Muslim, according to the Holy Quran or the Holy Book.
It's amazing how many people of entirely different worldviews still agree that Jesus actually existed. Most religions say that he was some sort of good moral teacher, but Christians believe he was actually much more than that. But they can't both be right. So how do we find out who is actually right? We could start by looking at what Jesus said about himself. Because he said some pretty wild things like, I am the light of the world. Now you say that around the wrong crowd, and they're liable to punch your lights clean out. He said, I am the bread of life. Would that be multigrain, whole wheat, or sliced white? He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to God except through me. Now that's an incredibly intolerant thing to say. He even said things like, I have the power to forgive sins. He said, I will judge the world. Just put yourself in those people's shoes. If I said to you that I was going to judge you, You'd think I was some sort of total freak. And that's what the people in his day thought. That's why they killed him. The philosopher and author C.S. Lewis came up with a theory that said anybody who made those type of claims had to be one of three things. Either he was a con man, fooling everybody that he was God with skin on, but then how many con men do you know that would be prepared to die for their scam? And hundreds of years before his birth, there were actually 300 prophecies about his birth, his life, and even the details of his death. Now, just the cowing logistics of pulling all that lot together and getting it right first time make that just too hard to believe. The second option that Lewis stated was that he was a total lunatic. I mean, really nuts. Absolutely deluded about who he was. But were his teachings the ramblings of a deranged mind? You see, the fact is that a lot of Western laws are based on what he said. And how many nutters do you know who could draw a crowd of thousands of people together and listen to him talk for hours? And the things he talked about, like love, forgiveness, kindness, generosity, and he actually lived all that. These aren't the things that you generally associate with a total fruit bat. Which then leaves us with the final option, that he actually was who he said he was, that he died and he rose from the dead. Because there's never been a corpse, and that's important, because if there was a corpse, this whole Christianity thing would have been dead and buried years ago. But hang on a minute. Before we break out into a rousing chorus of Kumbaya, my lord, has anybody thought of this? What if he didn't die in the first place? But the fact of the matter is this. He was crucified by Roman soldiers, and that was what they did. They were good at it, and they didn't make mistakes. Then they placed his body in a tomb that was guarded by armed soldiers, and they sealed it so that nobody'd steal the corpse. Later, he appeared to 11 different groups of people at different times, and one of those groups had 500 people present. Now, that's a really neat trick. If you can get 500 people to hallucinate the same thing at exactly the same time. So, summing up on Lewis's points, Jesus was either a con man, a nutter, or he was who he said he was. Now, you don't have to agree with this bloke, Lewis, but it does make you think. I could show you textbooks full of stuff that tells you every reason imaginable why you should believe in God. But quite frankly, it's all just stuff until you experience him for yourself. Some people say to me, I won't believe in God unless you can make him appear right now. And you know what? I can't do that. Nor can anyone else. But just because you can't see something doesn't mean you can't believe in it.
If a God wanted me to follow him, he'd give me a sign, I guess. Like, I like to sort of see things and then I'll believe them.
Except it's like, they can't even see their leaders. Most cults have like some retarded guy for a leader, and then now it's like some guy that they like doesn't even exist. That's pretty weird.
I just reckon they want to believe in something because they're scared that like there's going to be nothing afterwards. And this is all like pointless. This whole life thing.
It helps them cope with life and makes them stronger, I guess.
It's a crutch. It's like if you're going through tough times, if your family and friends aren't there for you, you can just turn to this thing called God, and then boom, there you go.
You have to look around you and see how all this came about, everything that you have. It couldn't just be mankind, and it couldn't just be like the Big Bang Theory.
Look at the sky. See, looking at this sky, you have to know that there's a God.
That's what I have to say.
I just don't get how people cannot believe in God.
And I think personally, if you don't believe in God, you're
Well, I'm that person who doesn't believe, but I'm thinking that people believe it because everybody else does, and they just kind of like go with the crowd.
I pretty much liken organized religion to drug abuse, and that people just turn to it when in times when they need it, just because they need answers.
What turns me off it is maybe this whole miracles idea. I don't know, I don't really believe in miracles because I've never seen a miracle.
Because trans people have experienced stuff which can only really be explained by something that we can't really think of, that has to be something else, like not earthly, like spiritual.
You know how parents taught you to believe it, so that's why you believe it.
It's true, people may think that God doesn't exist, but to other people he could have helped them. Some people see things that other people don't.
Like, I believe in ghosts, and I believe in spirits, and I believe in witches. I believe in everything, because it's not just us around here. There's stuff we can't see because we're just the humans. There's other stuff out there that, like, sometimes my washer turns on and I don't even touch it, and somebody did it, you know?
Because if you look at the way the whole earth and everything on this earth is put together, the food chain and everything, it didn't just happen.
I do believe that there is something greater than myself out there. I have never seen it. I don't know, maybe it's just a feeling that I have personally, but I do know that there is something out there that I can't see.
If you don't believe in something that you can't see, there'd be so many things you can't believe in.
There's never been a sign in my life saying there's something that I should be embracing that I'm not. And until there is, then I'm just going to keep living my own life, and I'm really open to any possibility, and so far there's just been no need.
So there's loads of stuff that we believe in that we actually can't see. Right now, I'm standing at the top of the CN Tower in Toronto, which is one of the tallest buildings in the world. And the reason that I'm standing on it instead of jumping off it is because of something else that I believe in that I can't see, and that's gravity. And from this height, gravity is probably going to leave a mark. Now, you might think that's not a fair argument when it comes to God, because even though you can't see gravity, you can see its effects all the time. Just open your eyes and look around you. I mean, the way this planet hangs together, it's not just by chance. It's not just down to some massive cosmic accident. Yeah, it's true, you can't see God, but maybe, just maybe, you can see his effects on us.
If you believe in God and stuff, you see the effects it has, and
Yeah.
you can see.
You might not see it directly, but you
Yeah.
see it, everything that happens because of it. So
I've seen things happen that I don't think are a coincidence.
Now I know he's there.
I saw a quality in people who are Christians that I wanted in myself.
It fills that void that no one else can fill.
And it's a total change, from being depressed to being renewed and happy.
He's the man. He's my bro. I mean, that guy has just done amazing things in my life, and I just can't wait to meet him, just to give him a big booyah.
Once I started experiencing him, I knew it was the real deal.
Now, does that mean just because a few people claim to have had some sort of spiritual experience with God that we should all be convinced? I mean, could these people answer all the questions you've got? Not a chance. But they claim to have experienced something real, so they've responded to it. To be honest, I still wrestle with a load of that stuff. I used to wonder what Christians were doing, throwing up prayers to a ceiling, talking to an imaginary God. I prayed loads of times when I was a teenager, and I didn't seem to get any answers. It just seemed to be a giant waste of time. Like we said in our last session, church to me was just a place that I went and I got bored on hard seats, just in case there was a God. Most of the people that I met there didn't have any answers that made any sense. So why am I here talking to you? Well, it's like this. One day I went into a church because I knew they served coffee and cakes. It was cold and wet, and it was getting late. I sat down in the back left-hand corner of the church and tried to stay as unnoticeable as possible. And that's when things started to get weird, and I'm talking about Twilight Zone, X-Files type of weird. Because one after another, two people stood up at the front of the building, and they didn't even turn around to see if I was there. And they started to tell everybody about some of the things that I'd done. Specific things. Things that only I knew about. It freaked me clean out. And then the minister of the church stood up and he started to talk about listening to what God was saying. I left the building. It scared me stiff. In fact, I didn't sleep much that night. Tell you the truth, I didn't sleep for about 3 days. Just kept going round and round in my head. God got my attention in a way that nothing ever had. And if I had the time, I could sit here and I could tell you loads and loads of things that have happened since and try and convince you to believe what I believe. But it probably wouldn't work because really, you've got to experience this for yourself. I chose to follow Jesus because of the difference that he'd made in my life. He changed from being a historical, mythical figure to being sort of a personal hero, someone I'd like to call a friend. But don't take my word for it. If God does exist, and if he can hear us, then I dare you to ask him to help you to find the truth. And that's actually what the Bible says that we should do. Search out the truth for ourselves, and God promises that if we do that, we won't be disappointed. You see, it's one thing to talk about Jesus as a superstar, but when you meet him for yourself, it's a whole different story.